Right now I have a job where I advise students about college, and I advise students and try to help them make the right decisions, which I felt like I didn't make those right decisions on where to go to school, how much it was going to cost, what to apply, what kind of major to be in. So I can help the students with the application. I can help the students with making those decisions on what they can afford, making the decisions on what they should major in, and really kind of talking them through the whole experience. Even though for me, college was a lot longer than it was for you, I still have that experience, and the same kind of experience that my students that don't have a lot of money and don't have the experience, I did not. I have a mother that went to college, and my students don't have parents that went to college. So they're what we call first generation students. So I feel like although my majors didn't prepare me, my experience in college and my experience as a first generation student. Okay, thank you so much, Murad, for joining me again. Today, we're actually going to talk about how both our educational backgrounds, both my educational background and your educational background, have affected our careers, either had an effect or didn't.
First of all, thank you so much, Rochelle, for giving me this third opportunity. I guess it's third or the fourth one. I'm so blessed and honored to be your guest again. And my name is Murad, for whom didn't see me before. And I have a bachelor's degree in computer engineering. I'm 37. I'm a father of 2 kids, and I'm from Yemen.
Okay, thank you so much. So basically, we'll start with if you want to tell me a little bit about your educational background, and then I'll talk about mine.
Yes, for regarding to my educational background, I have a bachelor's degree, as I mentioned earlier, in computer engineering. And I took my study in Yemen in a college called Shipa, Saba University. And I graduated in 2013, or in the end of 2012. And since then, actually, I didn't participate, or I didn't work in the same field. I found myself far away from computers and these technology and these science due to some personal issues. We're gonna explain them during the conversation. What about you?
So thank you for asking. My background is, well, when I graduated high school, I first went to college at a private school for one semester. I went to live there, and it was about 45 minutes away. But I quickly found, while I loved the school, I could not afford to stay there. So I left that school and I went to the school in the next town over, to Fitchburg State. It was college at the time, but now it's Fitchburg State University. And I'll explain to you why that change has happened. And I started studying history because I was going to go to law school. But then as I was studying history, I thought, what if I don't go to law school? So I decided to get a second major, and I got a second major in economics. I also have 2 minors. I have a minor in Spanish and a minor in women's studies. So I went to school for 5 years, and my job now, or my career, has and has not had to do with my education. You mentioned your major. That was my next question. Your major, computer science. Why did you choose computer science?
Well, I didn't mention first of all that I joined the medicine college in the beginnings, and I studied for 1 year. And due to some issues, I left medicine, and I decided to join the engineering college. And I don't know, back in the day, I still remember that I wasn't focused in studying. There were a lot of projects in my head, and unfortunately, I didn't have that guidance in my life to direct me to the correct path, or to stick in one path. I don't know exactly, but I took things without asking myself what is my interest in life. So I joined the faculty of engineering, and for 4 years I finished it, and I took the certification without even using it in my future career. And I don't know, it's a matter of choices and preferences in life. I did actually some wrong decisions in my life, and that took me to a place where I'm not using this certification anymore.
Yeah, and so for me, so I went for the history and economics, and I guess economics maybe I used a bit, but I'm not exactly sure what I was thinking I was going to do with economics. Probably business would have been a better choice. I mean, economics is a lot of theory, a lot of okay, supply and demand, inflation, And so I don't know that I'm really using it except to understand why we're having high inflation now. My first job coming out of college, I was interviewing for a number of different jobs, and like things in security, like being a security, like working in security of not securities for financial, but securities for like keeping buildings secure. I applied for jobs in selling cell phones, and they were the old flip phones at the time. Because, oh, I didn't mention that I graduated from college in 1998, so way earlier than you have. I ended up getting a job working for Prudential Insurance because they really lured me in with this idea of all the money I was going to make. And the first year wasn't so bad because I had what was called a base salary. So no matter if I sold or didn't sell any insurance, I would still get some money. And then the second year was going to be all commission. And so I'm not that great of a salesperson. So I'm probably, you can guess what happened at the beginning of that second year. Wasn't selling any.
Yeah,
I quit. And I ended up working in mortgages for a brief, just a couple months in mortgages. I thought mortgages, and I'm not sure if it means the same everywhere, but mortgages here in the US is like basically getting a loan for your house. And so I worked in banking and mortgages, and that didn't work out, basically because it was also selling. Okay, so basically the idea was that I needed to convince people to get a mortgage with that bank. So it still was sales. And then that didn't work out because I wasn't a good salesperson. So I decided I should do something with all this knowledge. I had to study to become an insurance salesperson. I had to study and learn about insurance. So there was a job opening up, or a job fair for working for an insurance company to be underwriters or claims people. Not anything I ever really wanted to do, but something that I could use this knowledge, all this, I studied for months to take the exams. So I interviewed and I got a job as an underwriter for insurance, and I did that for years. So maybe I was using a little bit of the economics for that because I was using the math for it, but it was a really boring job. So I would say I didn't really use the education, except for the fact that you needed to have a bachelor's degree to apply for these jobs. So I guess in a way you could say I did, because I had that required bachelor's degree, but it wasn't a super related bachelor's degree, if that makes sense. You mentioned that you are not really using your degree. So do you want to like share what you're doing for your work? What is your current like career? What do you do?
Well, as I mentioned in the beginnings, that my personal issue that I didn't select the specialty or the major that I'm seeking to build my career with. It was only a choice that I took without considering the future. So that ended me up in a position where after graduation I was seeking to find any job. And the time I received my first offer, it was something about procurement. I found myself directly accepting that and ignoring my 4 years that I spent in college studying computer engineering and science. So I said to myself, okay, I'm gonna focus more in this position. I found it easy for me to understand because I was believing in my skills in business and the future of that field. I thought during my work in the first company, it was supposed to me to select maybe business administration to be my major, my degree that easily can be affected my career. But unfortunately, I didn't take that decision in early time. So right now I'm working in the field of procurement. I jumped from a company to another during the last maybe 12 year, I can, or 10 years exactly. I started working in a food company. Then I worked in a company that is specialized in supply chain, which is something close to procurement, where you have to arrange shipments and make sure that it will be delivered to customs, and you take the procedures of clearance, and then you pull the shipment out from customs, and you will send it to your warehouses, the company warehouses. And I took that path, and for the last 10 years, I was experiencing that field. And right now, actually, my last job, since I quit my last job 4 months ago, I was in charge of procurement when it comes to purchasing food items and beverage items. So I was focusing in that field.
So that's interesting that and I was going to ask you what procurement, but now you kind of explained what that meant. And so I mentioned that I was working all this time and not really using my degree fully, but I would say that after 12 years working in insurance, I got laid off. And what that means in the US is basically they're saying that they do not need they do not need people to do this job. They weren't firing me, but they just didn't need as many people. They actually were moving my job to another state. And so I ended up not having a job and being out of a job and being unemployed. And so I was having a real hard time because to do the same thing, I would have to move or I'd have to drive really far for any of the jobs that were underwriting. Underwriting, what I was doing was I was doing group insurance. And what does that mean? So basically, say there was a high school or a Walmart or whatnot that has like 500 employees. I was the person that they would get a quote. They would want to get their employees life insurance and disability insurance. So they would go to a broker to get a quote for that. And the broker would send that to me. And I would look at how many claims, meaning how many people went on disability and how many people died and so on. And I would figure out what the rate would be for that Walmart. There was some calculations and some like, oh, let's look at similar companies that are the size of Walmart or whatnot, and do a calculation, do some math, do some algebra, and come up with the rates, negotiate back and forth, because then the broker would say, well, Hartford is charging this and this company is charging that. Can we like get the rate to go down, negotiate? But at the end of the day, it was a boring job. I got laid off. I couldn't get the same kind of job. But what I found was that I was really good at helping other people find jobs. So I started to think about being a career advisor. And I actually went on informational interviews with a bunch of different people in colleges that did that. They had career advising in colleges. And I asked if I could be an intern or I could be a volunteer. And I was told no, no, no. And I was told maybe by one. The maybe turned into a paid internship. And I did that and worked for college for about a year and a half. Then I got laid off from that. I worked for a nonprofit doing the same job. I worked for another college doing that, get laid off from that. And then I finally got this particular job right now. The job that I have now, I think is kind of related to, not so much my degree in history and economics, but is related to the whole college experience. Because right now I have a job where I advise students about college, and I advise students and try to help them make the right decisions, which I felt like I didn't make those right decisions on where to go to school, how much it was going to cost, what to apply, what kind of major to be in. So I can help the students with the application. I can help the students with making those decisions on what they can afford, making the decisions on what they should major in, and really kind of talking them through the whole experience. Even though for me, college was a lot longer than it was for you, I still have that experience and the same kind of experience that my students that don't have a lot of money and don't have the experience. I have a mother that went to college, and my students don't have parents that went to college. So they're what we call first generation students. So I feel like although my majors didn't prepare me, my experience in college and my experience as a first generation student has prepared me for my current job, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Actually, your position now or your job that you are doing, it's very interesting and very important at the same time. I believe if I knew you before, I'm gonna ask for a lot of consultancy, to be given to me, because I was a little bit distracted in my educational career, and I didn't stick to one, what they call this specification to finish it and to get the degree where I can complete after that. So things could happen. It is what it is.
So I also like to think, like I when I was working advising people, and I would work with also people that were older adults that had worked and maybe they lost their jobs or they were between jobs and they decided to go to school for another degree so that could help them get a job. And I wondered, have you ever thought of going to school to get an advanced degree to help you with your career?
Well, honestly, to be honest with you, I don't believe in the educational system. That was my idea, and still believe that the educational system is not building a successful people. It's only building slaves who are only, be in a position where they want to receive their paycheck by the end of the month. So for me, always I was only thinking of building my own self, investing in my own time to find the business where I can control myself, manage my time and my attendance. Because really, I'm not good in working in companies where I start to receive orders from my higher manager and start to, give me some instructions that, or to put me in a position that I don't feel comfortable. So this was my idea, and right now I'm focusing my own self, and I don't think that I'm gonna waste more years, to get a higher degree, because I didn't use my first one, so I won't, invest more time, to get a new one, because yes, I believe certifications is something very important to get any vacancy or any job opportunity. But it's better, to invest in your side, in your own self, and to build your own career. Maybe you can find, a business that you can grow with, and working for 16 hours for yourself is better to work for others for 12 hours. And this is my concept of work, and this is what I'm currently doing now. I'm working freely. I'm doing some online work, something related to have a relevant to customs clearance, and to receive some orders to clear them from different facilities. And that's my essential role and my essential, or my primary job that I'm doing now. I'm trying to develop that business, and hopefully that things will change in the future, and that I can flourish with my new business.
It's interesting you say that. So I actually, when I got laid off from that job in insurance, I did end up going back and I got a MBA, business administration. Fortunately, I didn't pay for it. Like my father paid for that. It did help me get a job, which then I just got laid off from. So like, did it help me? Yes, it helped me get a job, but I didn't end up staying in that job. And I think like yourself, I wouldn't put any more money into going for any degrees, because I have worked with people that I worked with somebody that had an MBA from Cornell and a doctorate degree from Princeton, and he was out of work and he couldn't get hired. It was almost to the point that we decided, let's take those off, because maybe employers are not wanting to hire you because you are what's called overqualified. And interesting that you say that you don't believe in the education system. Like I'm kind of like half and half. I do believe that it's good for some people. Like my son's going to school for engineering, and I think that's the right thing for him, but it's not the right thing for everybody. And I'm glad that my job right now, which used to only be about working with students to go to college, but now we can also support them if they want to go into the trades. We can also support them if they want to get a certificate. We can also support them if they want to join the military or other things like that, that are not going straight into college. So I work for an organization called Gear Up, which means gaining early awareness and readiness for undergraduate programs. A mouthful, right? But the undergraduate programs is what means college, right? So instead, now we can actually support our students to go into the trades and to go into the workforce, and not only to the path straight to college. So I like it's kind of similar to what you said. College might be the right thing and the right path for some people, but it's not the right path for everyone.
Yes, and just to clarify one thing, saying that I'm not believing in the educational system, I mean exactly that. It's necessary to go to college. It's very important to get your credentials and your certifications, because without them, you won't have, a proper job for yourself. But what I mean exactly, if you're gonna follow the whole career of yourself, just depending on your certifications, you won't be that successful guy. You will end up in a position that you cannot grow up, and you cannot, find yourself in higher positions. So yes, it's important, but when you start to go to reality, to the field, you will find that all what you studied is far away from reality. And this is, my concern was, and this is what I experienced actually nowadays.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, I definitely agree there. I would like to close with one last question that I like to ask people. If you could go back and give advice to yourself about give advice to yourself before you went to college, what would that advice be?
Well, in my case, I would say to myself, you have to be more serious. You have, to select your path, and to know exactly that this is the path that you're gonna work and you will be associated with in the future. You have to study more and to bring more attention to your subjects. So a lot of things, because I was a little bit distracted during my educational path. I wasn't taking things seriously. So a lot of advices I'm gonna, try to remind myself with. But you know, the days just passed by, and that was in the past, and we are living, the present now. Yes. So since I answered your question, I'm gonna ask you the same one. What is the advice that you're gonna give to yourself if you're gonna, go back, in the days of studying at college?
I think myself, what I would give the advice is that not to be like all thinking about how much money you're going to make, but think about what you really want to do. Because I'm so much happier doing what I'm doing now, which doesn't pay anywhere as much as when I worked in the insurance industry. So I would kind of think about what kind of job do you want to do where you will actually look forward to going to work on Monday mornings. That's the kind of job, not to think about how much money is going to pay, what kind of job is going to pay the most, but what kind of job will you actually look forward to going to work on Monday mornings, which is what I actually do now. When I'm at home on the weekends, I enjoy my weekends, but I actually enjoy going to work and seeing how my students are, how their weekends went, and seeing them each day and seeing their progress and seeing their, being part of their successes. And that's what I didn't get when I worked in the insurance company, when I was basically just doing boring work with spreadsheets.
Yes, I agree with you. And you came with very important point where, yes, all of us in the beginnings, we will start thinking of how much money we're going to make from that job. And with getting old in age, a lot of requirements will be changed. A lot of principles in life will be changed. Now, my only concern is not only money, is having a job that I feel, comfortable with, environment that is considered as productive environment, having a good managers, good co-workers, so that I can, bring myself and bring all the ideas inside me, in a proper manner. So, life is getting changed, and our principles in life will change definitely with getting old in age as well.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I remember you mentioned a couple earlier that you were now kind of working for yourself and kind of not having that job boss and all that. And I would love to get to that point. While I love going to work on Monday and working with my students, I would love to be able to just be planning out my days and deciding when and where I'm going to work. And that's what I'm hoping to get from doing this whole journey that I've been on with YouTube, that I will get to that point where I can quit my day job, even though I love it, but I would love to not have to be there. Okay, I love going to work on Monday mornings, but then sometimes it's the struggle of getting there on Monday mornings.
Yeah, of course. Working for others needs a lot of requirements to stick with. And yes, nothing better than being independent life, financially, practically, all these things, is something desirable for anyone to have, that independence life.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me again. And I do look forward to recording and having future conversations with you on all kinds of topics. And just want to thank you again for taking your time.
The pleasure is mine. And thank you so much for this beautiful interview, and looking forward for the coming one.
All right. Thank you.